Boom. All right.
We're
We're
live.
going.
Okay. All right. So this is it. This is the best I've felt all day because I hadn't had I'm having one of those days where I'm just like a little overwhelmed. I don't know. Have you ever there's a great comedy skit it's not a skit, just a joke by Jim Gaffigan, that comedian. Do you know him?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He talks about, have you ever had so much to do that you just lay down and take a nap?
Yeah, that's how I feel. I get overwhelmed quite easily. And
so
and I feel like, but the thing is, I don't do that. I should just go take a nap.
Well, that's an interesting way, right? Or just go ahead and start getting something done. You know what I mean? But either way, you're taking care of yourself. The best thing not to do is to sit there paralyzed, to watch the time go by, and you use each tick of the clock to feel worse and more pressured, right? So I'm having one of those days where because of the pressure and the overwhelm, I'm not sure what to prioritize. And as soon as I start to do one thing or another, I feel the pressure. And then underneath all that, there seems to be this profound sadness that I can't name. And I'm like, oh God, it's just one of those days. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just one of those days. So I was so happy just for the 2 minutes that we talked about before we jumped on here live. Because there's nothing that was inspiring me. And there's nothing that was just I didn't want to go through stuff I'd already watched before. But I really did want to introduce to you at some point this guy, Vlad Vexler. Okay. I'm pretty sure he's British. I'm pretty sure he's on his deathbed, and I actually literally mean that. We're
sad.
He's not doing great, but he's sick, and some of it's long COVID and some of it's other stuff. But a few posts a week, it's he's on the way to the hospital again, or he's too sick to even take the ride to the hospital. Mm-hmm. So he tries to get these videos out whenever he can, and you'll see he thinks a little bit differently than a lot of people. The things that he says, it makes me think. But it's very deep stuff, right? So it's the stuff that you and I like, right? But it takes energy. But I haven't watched this latest video yet, and it's connected to what you wanted to talk about with, Mamdani's, win and the meta thing, as you put it. It's what's actually going on here? What could this mean? What does this indicate, right?
Yeah.
And so I haven't had enough time this week because because I'm taking my fucking family to Disney World, so I'm so stressed out get everything. You know what I'm saying? It's I just want to be able to be there, with the kids.
Yeah.
Rather than being in between rides trying to send emails or try to get people into the 4-year program. I just want to be there. And so to get there, I'm everyone just stay out of my way. Let me get this done so we can have a great vacation.
Just go on Space Mountain. Shut up.
I feel. That's right. That's how I feel right now. And I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
It's bumming me out.
Are you a Fast Pass? Are you a Fast Pass guy? Do you spend the money on Fast Pass?
For sure.
Yeah.
It's at this point you have to, right?
You're already dumping that much money in.
It gives you your day back. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You can actually enjoy the day.
Yeah.
So it's you're not paying $300 to stand online, which is what you end up doing. It's
crazy how expensive it is these days. I mean, everything's expensive, but Disney's crazy.
Well, it's insane. The only reason Gina and I can do it is we're Gina does it. Gina, we're opposites, right? So she's I'm all right, I'm not putting anything on the calendar until all my stuff is done. Mm-hmm. I'm not adding one more pressure because I'm always a pressure cooker. I'm a little sensitive boy. And so I'm not adding anything.
Sensitive boy as well. We're both sensitive boys.
This is why I brought it up with you, because I knew you'd relate, right? So this wouldn't be falling into you wouldn't look at me dude, suck it up. And Gina's I don't know how this is going to happen. We'll just put it on the calendar, and through sheer will and force, we will make it happen. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I feel I just get dragged along for the ride, and I get stressed, But the fact is, it happens, And she did this about a month ago, and now it's happening. We're going to Disney. I'm geez. And the only reason that happened is because we got last minute booked to teach at a festival in Austin, which was a good paying job. So, she gets to DJ and teach yoga. I get to teach and do my thing, teach workshops, and we get to hang at a nice Airbnb and make it a little family vacay, right? So, and then we can take that money, move it to Disney. So that way the little one gets her birthday gift of being with the princesses, and, we're making it happen, but Dad's a little stressed out. And so I'm very happy that it's all coming together, right? All of the stress today is coming together to what we're about to do now, which is truly the spirit of what I wanted on this channel, which was to watch new videos with you that we're both interested in, that we can talk about live, like on the fly, like, you know, so I'm not rewatching anything and
Yeah,
reintroducing you to it.
yeah.
I wanted it fresh and live. And so this just popped up, worked out great. And now, so now you'll get to know Vlad Vexler. So I have no idea how sick he is in this, whether he's good or not. I'm sure he'll mention something, but you'll also get a sense of how he thinks, because after this one, some of the other videos that he's done is really breaking down the psychological makeup of the people in head of nations and the nations themselves, and why certain things like this happen from a different perspective. Right. And to me, I've always thought it was very deep and very powerful what he talks about. And he seems to be friends with all the other YouTubers that I like that talk about this kind of stuff too. And that brings a sense of safety to me as well. We're like, oh, okay, all right, it's not some asshole that's out there. I'm not wasting my time with this guy. He seems to know what he's talking about. But you'll let me know what you think. You know?
Yeah. All right, cool. I trust you. All right,
Thanks, man.
let's do this.
All right.
Add to stage, and here we are.
Hello, beautiful community. Zoran Mamdani's victory reveals quite a few big picture takeaways about the temper of our political age. And we're going to focus on 6 of them together. There are a lot of micro takeaways that are hugely interesting. They're going to be beautifully delivered by other platforms, but we're going to go global, independently of whether you are in the United States and independently of whether you love Zoran or whether you disagree with some of his policies and some of his ideological positions. I've written us a very short Substack about this just to help us get through it quicker. So let's go for a beautiful community. Now, my first point is about fear and fearful defensive politics. Mamdani demonstrated what many politicians, many media organizations, many higher education institutions lack, and that is the absence of fear. The absence of fear is a very important political virtue. And in our age of democratic decline, it's an antidote to authoritarianism. Second point is just about democratic socialism. Mamdani's choice of democratic socialist over social democrat as a label proved not to be a very major liability. Because for him, and also for Bernie, democratic socialist versus social democrat is a distinction not of sense, but of sensibility. So when David Remnick recently asked Mamdani, what's the difference for you? He said, the difference is that I fight longer and harder for my political ideals than I would do if I were a social democrat. That's to say, analytically, we're not looking at anything other than social democracy. My third remark is about hyper.
What is social democracy? Like, what's he talking about here? This is where I would have to pause and go on my own little research rabbit hole. Because actually what he's talking about, like when he names something like that, he's talking to like people that have been in college for a while talking about this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't fill in all the gaps at this point. So do you have an understanding of what this is? It's okay if you don't. You know, I'm just curious. Like the difference between sense and sensibility when you're talking about a democratic socialist or a social democracy. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give like the definition according to Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Just
Fair.
Social democracy is a social, economic, and political philosophy within socialism that supports political economic democracy and a gradualist, reformist, and democratic approach toward achieving social equality. Versus
Okay. So it seems to be more like an evolutionary quality. Like we're all going to vote together, get involved together, and we're going to make things happen from the inside out. Okay.
Versus democratic socialism.
Mm-hmm.
Democratic socialism argues that capitalism is inherently incompatible with the values of freedom, equality, and solidarity, and that these ideals can only be achieved through the realization of a socialist society. So social democracy is more of a reform approach, where if we just go about the way that we organize ourselves and vote differently are more engaged, we can reform the current system.
So capitalism still can survive. We just need to refine it.
Yes, right. It's a reformist approach.
Like wake up to the fact that corporations have gotten involved. Money is now pouring into politics, and it's all been poisoned.
You know, it's like as long as if we regulate capitalism enough, we can make it work.
Okay.
Right. Whereas the democratic socialist are beyond that, these theoretical positions.
So what is it, and what is Mamdani's approach?
He's a democratic socialist.
Ooh.
I mean, but like it doesn't, like for me, and this is why I'm getting the leftist and stuff. Like everybody's like, oh, I'm a Marxist, I'm a communist, I'm a this person, I'm a Trotskyist, like all these different philosophers. I'm like, I don't care. Like I understand you do need some like ideological grounding of like where you stand, but I'm like, there's literally fascists in the White House, and we are a very, very, very capitalist society. So like, cool, you can call yourself a communist, you can call yourself whatever. We still have the reality that we have with us right now. So and from what I know of Mamdani, seems like he's a realistic guy. Like he understands that like, I'm not going to be able to come in and just implement socialism on the first, right?
Make us bigger screen for a minute, because I think we're going to hang here for a sec, just so that we can get the groundwork right. Yeah. Cool. Is that
not
easy?
that one. This one.
That's the one. So okay. So I also want to know what socialism is then. To be honest, I just want to get a sense of this, right? Just so I can actually take this in. Do you have a chance to look that up too? Or am I asking too much?
Yeah. So like the basic. Again, like I'm also not like.
Yeah, I could chat GPT it if you want to. You know, it's just I want to get this down because
socialism is an economic and political philosophy encompassing diverse economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production. That's the main, like always social ownership, but the means of production is the thing that you say. And by means of production, right, it's the way in which we produce things, right? So in capitalism, usually it's a individual person owns a bunch of land, right? And ultimately they make the decisions, right? Versus, theoretically in socialism, it's like, okay, everybody has equal say in what we do with the land. And through a democratic process, we come to an agreement on how we distribute things, how we produce them, who benefits. Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you. It's important for me to do that, right? Because, sometimes it's without that understanding, it'll appear as though I'm off in la la land because there's nothing for me to connect what I'm thinking about, right? Because like really what I'm thinking about is right now, I think we're in an interesting time, right? If somebody put a gun to my head and say like, tell me kind of where we are in the creation process right now in terms of like why we're even debating whether or not capitalism should be around, right? Like what's up with that?
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of what you're interested in talking about today too, like what all this means in the larger process and so on. So like when I think about this is like I'm still waiting for. I still think, okay. What I think about it like different levels of consciousness, right? And the lower levels of consciousness, we have like competition, like dualism, right and wrong, me and you. Like there's not enough resources for all of us to survive. We look around in the world and we see that everything is eating everything else. It seems like there's not a lot of room for all of us, right?
Yeah.
And to me, I suspect what I feel in my body, and I'm like sort of paying attention to the world in this way, is I suspect that most of that is being on one side of like still the survival instinct of like, we need to survive here, right? So there's not enough resources, and capitalism is good because it means that I can't collude with you and decide that we're going to price fix and take advantage of everybody because there's competition. So it forces both of us to like be better, right? So we actually are going to work to become more efficient, and we're going to lower prices because this keeps everybody in the game, and it's better for everybody for us to be doing that. And then once something goes into, what some people suspect the White House is doing, I obviously am totally not on board with it, all jokes aside, but like once people start colluding or paying to like be sponsored by the White House or things like that, right? Everything falls away because you're not trying to be better anymore. You're just trying to buy yourself in. And nobody cares about whether or not there's a quality product. It's just about who is the highest bidder and then who gets chosen, right? So like it takes like that whole really important and alive piece out where we're always in conflict with each other. We have to be alert. We have to be surviving. We have to be growing and evolving, or else somebody else is going to eat our food before us or eat us, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I totally get, I get why we're there. And then I also suspect that there are some people that can feel that there's a larger model or a larger knowing of how all of this can take place in the world, such as instead of interdependence, some people talk about interabundance, right? The difference between depending on each other and needing each other to abundantly being in a relationship with one another as we are, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I haven't sorted through this enough, right? But this is in the back of my mind. I go, this has to be possible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're going to create an infinite energy device and have unlimited energy pouring out of this, perpetual motion machine that somehow taps into the ether. Right? I'm not saying that that's possible, although lots of rumors that there are things like this, right? And I'm not saying that's off the table either.
Yeah.
It'd sort of be the manifestation of an infinite amount of energy in a finite amount of space, which is in the Kabbalistic tree of life right here, right? So people have been drawing maps of that truth for many years. It's just a matter of whether or not we can actually physically manifest that truth, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I suspect, and the reason why I go, ooh, when I heard Mandani was more a democratic socialist, because that's going to stir things up more, because I think he's coming more from some felt experience of interabundance. There's an opportunity here to have a greater level of consciousness, a greater awareness of the brotherhood, sisterhood of man that can somehow be in relationship to the whole, where it's not all limitation and lack. There's something else that's going on. All right. And so he's a part of this larger model that wants to come in that can make that greater consciousness manifest. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know anything more. It's all very abstract for me. I'm like finger painting, throwing paint at the wall right now, just kind of like seeing what's there.
No, you're correct. You're correct.
I am.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. At least from what I shouldn't say you're correct. I deeply agree with you.
Yes.
And I believe there is more academic and intellectual work, research, and studies that would conclude what you conclude. But in a more like material way of like really naming the things.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not off in La La Land going, can't we all just get along? Right.
No.
It's like, I'm not talking about that. Right. I'm talking about just the hints and the whispers of a larger model wanting to come in and the struggles that we have to realize that in our day-to-day lives. This shit takes forever. It takes forever. That's what I'm really like in my old age. Patience. Like I'm really like, it's like, if you want to get it done right, you got to do it right. No shortcuts. And what does that mean? It means that thing that you thought was going to take 6 months may take 10 years, but you'll get it done and you'll get it done right. And that's really, learning about like what's actually possible based on the environment that I'm in. What can we actually do with the people involved, the consciousness of everybody, right? Because I don't want to just be railing and angry at everybody that they don't get it. Like I have to be the one that gets it and somehow include everybody along the ride and transmit my vision and communicate that and put things in place for other people who don't see the vision to some bumpers, so that they don't freak out and ruin the whole thing. Right. Is this possible? So anyway, that's very exciting to me. Thank you for taking the time.
For sure. I got a lot more I could say in response to it. First of all, what's up, Vince? Vince said, what up?
Oh, what up?
Took up the chat. This is my buddy, Vince. No, from my perspective and my education on things, if anyone takes one, you got to start with like, what is the goal of society, right? For me, like if our goal is to build a civilization that is long lasting, sustainable, and, to live long, like in harmony with the earth, and with one another. Some people may call that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people agree with that, like that being the goal, right? So if the goal is we want to create a sustainable civilization that can last long and create a quality of life for all human beings and all living creatures, capitalism is just antithetical to that. In terms of like just the system creates certain social dynamics and material dynamics that's rooted in scarcity, and it being rooted in scarcity will then inevitably create this, what we now see as competition and this idea that there isn't enough for everybody.
Right. It's Satan's system.
While
Dude,
also,
right, from like last time, right? It's like you're looking at it and it's an incomplete system. There's something that we're looking at that's wrong. It's our perspective isn't whole, so we're not coming up with the system that's whole enough yet, because we're not there yet.
Yeah, even Marx. If you like Marx's writing, right? And when I think of Marx, right, I don't see like, oh, I'm a Marxist. Marx was a philosopher from the 1800s, and a lot of the shit he said was correct, and a lot of stuff he said was from the 1800s, right? And it has evolved since then. And I just take it in. It's as information. I don't see it as gospel. I don't see it as I see it as information, just in the way anyone else who was a philosopher or a theorist creates their theories. Like it's just information that to bring in. But people, because of the Cold War propaganda, the term Marxist, it's like people hear and think like Satan, or you hear Nazi, right? And that's just not it's just not the truth. It's not the whole truth of it. But also, and also with capitalism requires infinite growth. Like if it doesn't continue to grow, the system fails. And what do we call things that like require infinite growth?
Cancer.
So,
okay. So we're talking about, right. Well, the reason why, and the reason why cancer is because the cell's not connected to the whole. It's not responding to the signals. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about a reflection, a holographic reflection of our own limited consciousness that's not connected to the whole, but it's a system that's good enough. But that system that's good enough is actually cancer. That's the best we can do. Right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like in terms of like our mind compared to God's mind, the best system we can come up with right now is cancer. It's like, okay, like we should let that humble us. Right. So this reminds me of game theory. Game theory? I couldn't spit it out right now, but there's something about, right? So like, again, it's like this lower level consciousness stuff that is doomed to fail because it's not in a system that can sustain itself because it's not connected to the whole. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go on if you are.
Yeah. But also, point I forgot to say, even Marx in his writings gives credit to what capitalism is good at. Right. He admits that like capitalism is very good at producing goods and services and producing like, so even him and his, he wasn't just like everything about capitalism is horrible and nothing. He was just acknowledging this is the system and how it works. And this is inevitably where the system will take you just based on its design. And so for me, when a metaphor that I like to see is, or I like to think of it as, it's like old software on a computer, right? After a while, you need to update the software or your computer becomes susceptible to viruses, it'll crash, right? And that's how I see, especially even if you break down the word economy, right? The old Greek word, it's economia or something like that. And its original meaning means the management of one's household. Right. And so you think about an economic system, a management system of society. Right. If you look at it from a systemic perspective, but like most due to propaganda, it's capitalism is seen very religiously. People treat it like a religion. And I don't know. And for me, and this is where I come in conflict with like, when I thought about like when I was like an American, right? The idea of like we're the best in the world. what came along with that with me was like, there's nothing we can't accomplish, right? We can do anything if we put our minds to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people who say like capitalism is it, right? This is the end of. I remember after the USSR fell, one of the main economists at the time says this is the end of history.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is it forever. It feels so cynical. It feels very cynical. It feels very like this is it, right? This is
Well, how could that be? Life goes on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, all of human
Exactly.
race could be gone, and in 10 years, it wouldn't even, you know,
Yeah.
look like we've been here, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
that's not true, right?
Mhm.
That's thinking that's not connected to the whole. So, okay. Anything else you
Yeah.
want to say?
No, I'll have more. Hi, Gina.
Okay.
She says, someone who has lived in a socialist country in Europe, it is the way, full stop.
We'll bring in some of those other
Okay.
videos you and I talking about, Zach, with stop the boats. Like we were just saying, Paris, Britain, there's so many places right now that are like the far right is like going nuts, and it's connected to all that. So we'll get into that too. It's entertaining, at least.
A lot of problems. I'm trying to get back to this.
There we go.
All right, only that one.
You lost
do
me.
this one.
Your
heck?
internet's
Here we go.
flickering.
Here we
in and
go.
out. Okay.
My internet's sucking. All right, we're back. Let's go.
All right, so can you back it up like 30
Identity
seconds,
politics
10 seconds?
Yeah, I'll take it back here.
Because he talked about what the absence of fear is a political virtue, which Zoran Mandani has, right?
Yeah, an
That's
antidote.
sort of like the antidote to authoritarianism. There's number 2. I don't remember what number 2 was, but it's something to do with the socialism piece.
I'll take it back a minute.
Yeah, okay.
Socialist versus social democrat is a distinction not of sense, but of sensibility. So when David Remnick recently asked Mamdani, what's the difference for you? He said, the difference is that I fight longer and harder for my political ideals than I would do if I were a social democrat. That's to say, analytically, we're not looking at anything other than social democracy. My third remark is about hyper-identity politics, or what's often called woke. Mamdani ran a progressive campaign that stayed largely non-woke. So woke means, number one, that you turn political disagreement into core moral conflict. Number two, that you turn moral conflict into conflict about identity. And three, you turn identity into something that institutions must enforce. And Mamdani largely avoided this spiral that has so unfortunately beset Western politics over the last decade. He argued passionately for his positions, but mostly didn't moralize his political opponents or strive to remove them from the table of politics. There's not a clean pass here, but there is a clean enough pass. My fourth point is about populism. There are two kinds of populism. Exclusionary populism, that's what Donald Trump does, and inclusive populism, that's what Bernie does. Now, inclusive populism doesn't mean that it's terrific populism and it's exactly the sort of thing we need. It just means that if we're going to have populism, we'd better have inclusive populism because it lacks the huge fault of exclusionary populism, which is the politics of enemies that we're witnessing like water coming to the boil, unleashed into the American polity. Now, Mamdani is an inclusive populist, which means that for him, number one, everybody counts, and he knows that the politics of enemies is the enemy of democracy. And number two, he energizes himself and citizens by appealing to their better instincts, by appealing to their constructive rather than their destructive impulses. He's fueled by aspiration and hope, not by betrayal and resentment. And this business of us being in an age in which increasingly citizens are encouraged to liberate out their destructive impulses is something very important and perhaps worthy of a separate conversation. I was just thinking that ages ago, Peter Pomerantsev and I said that we'd do a little talk together. And actually, I think Peter would be very good at talking about this destructive stuff. So we might do that. It's important to not overshoot with this, because what you don't want to say is that it's the fault of citizens that our democracies are in decline because their destructive impulses have been liberated. What you want to say is their destructive impulses have been liberated because of various social forces. And it's those social forces we need to tackle in order to, again, inhibit the destructive impulses of our citizens and help out their constructive impulses, help their constructive impulses to come out. So Mamdani is an inclusive populist. My fifth remark is about radicalness. Because radicalness isn't a problem. It's the undoability of radical policies, or policies that are said to be radical but actually might not be. That's the problem. So Mamdani promises not revolution but small public goods, partial rent freezes, free buses, fewer traffic jams, cheaper childcare, a handful of publicly owned grocery stores. This is not revolutionary. But the thing is that radicalism isn't a problem. The undoability of policies you propose is. And that's where I want to land. When campaigns fail to translate into governance, trust erodes. And what erodes isn't just trust in the leader, but trust in the entirety of the political process, and indeed even trust in the very difference between truth and lies. And earlier this century, we saw a particularly powerful example of Barack Obama, which showed us how far brilliance in communication can coexist with paralysis in office. So Mamdani's sincere agenda will collide with the limits of governance. And a lot of what he proposes may come to look hollow. Much of what he wishes to do will prove to be either out of his hands or not affordable or counterproductive or dependent on infrastructure that doesn't exist. And this is a paradox of modern democracy, that in 2025, our democracies which are in decline need bold action to survive, but are designed to smother bold action, if not make it entirely impossible. That's one of the thorny challenges that we face in the West in the 2020s and the 2030s, that to keep our democracy, we've got to be bold, but the ill-assorted mess of checks and balances in our democracies actually largely prevents the bold action that we need for democratic survival. Now, how far Mamdani's governance erodes trust will in part depend on whether he can persuade his political subjects that he is desperately and non-self-indulgently trying to make their lives better. So that clear perception of non-self-obsessed trying will be a very important factor here, as much of the campaign runs into the challenges of governance. Let's love and talk very soon.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Okay.
So he's a deep thinker, right? You can kind of get a sense of how he looks at things. He's not on one side or the other. He never comes forward with that, right? Just kind of like looks at it for what it is through his lens and what he understands as sort of like a geopolitical philosopher and so on, political philosopher. So I don't know. I don't know what else to do with that besides, he bummed me out. Meaning, like, again, like how long it takes, right? We need bold action, and everything is set up through the crazy checks and balances to prevent that. Like, that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of the challenge, but also part of like the genius of the way our Constitution was set up. Was that it was set up in this way where it's very difficult for one person or one administration to come in and make huge sweeping changes. Right. Which has its pluses and has its minuses. Pluses being, someone like Trump, even though he's being very successful this time around, but also this has been decades in the making. Trump is just the end of something that's been organized for decades. Whereas the American left, again, I hate even using the binary language, but the American left hasn't really had power since, since 70s, maybe not even before then. People talk about like socialism and communism as if it isn't part of like American history. Like, we got the New Deal because of socialists and communists who fought, and like the New Deal was like a compromise from, FDR kind of like went to the capitalists and was like, it's either like you break here and give us this, or they're going to take over. There's going to be a socialist revolution in the United States. But yeah, the slowness of it is what's challenging, and which is why a lot of people, I don't say a lot of people, there are people on the anti-capitalist side of things that argue for what they call accelerationism, which I do not agree with. But they're like, they'll say when you talk about things about like, hey, be more aware with, don't buy from Amazon, don't buy from these big corporations, spend more locally, right? Where accelerationists would say, buy from Amazon, buy from all those things. The quicker that the corporations take over, the quicker we'll achieve class consciousness, and we'll be able to have a revolution and bring upon life post-capitalism. And then there's those who are like, the social democrats who would say like, no, we just need to reform it, right? And then there's others who see it in its place of like, well, we got to do social democracy first, and then we'll go to socialism, and then we'll go to communism. That's kind of like how, I'm not a socialist academic or anything. So, but in general, there's many different. This is why I hate using the term the left, because the left can mean anything from a centrist Democrat, typically of, Joe Biden type people, to extreme, people who believe full communism.
Yeah. Well, it's like saying it's daytime and assuming that I know what you're talking about with all of the things that can happen during the day. Right. Yeah. All I know is that it's not dark. That's it. And so,
and there's also similar reductionism with when they say the right to, but the right is more defined because it is conserving something that already exists or trying to go back to something that already existed.
Well, you could say the same thing about the left, in that the left is trying to be more on the side of like an evolutionary growth, and the right is a part of that too, but wants to keep things more conservative. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like two different responses to life, the way life flows.
Yeah. So
I'm on board with all that. So I don't know. Was this anything that you didn't know? Was this, a guy like this? Is that somebody that interests you? Because really when he got me to start listening to his videos was when he broke down the psychological makeup of like the Putins, the Trumps, the nations. And I went, oh, like this is another level. Like I had to listen to it a few times,
Yeah. Yeah. So when he's talking about, that perspective in terms of like Mondani, and how he ran his campaign, and the messaging of it was, Zoran really showed, like when Trump won, the reaction from the establishment Democrats, who are a bunch of spineless losers. Hi, Alma.
Hey, looks great, my love. Looks good. Got
What's
another
she make?
backpack, huh? She's getting all these princess backpacks for Disney. She's getting ready. Looks
Oh, she
amazing,
ready.
sweetheart. Looks great. Blah, blah, blah.
She ready.
Say that again.
So the reaction from when Trump won last year, from the establishment Democrats, because they're idiots and they're completely disconnected from reality, was, we only lost because of wokeness, right? So we got to throw everybody under the bus, throw LGBTQ people under the bus. We can't fight. It's like, that's not why you lost. It's lost because you led with an identity politics. Essentially, you led with we're not him, vote for us. And you lead with an identity politics, a modern identity politics that is disconnected from the material world, right? And so it creates more separation, right? You can talk about those things, and I believe you should talk about those things, but talk about it in the context that connects everybody, right? And shows that, liberation, no one's free until we're all free type of place, and not just like, oh, you're a bad person if you don't ride with this. It's like, as a political campaign, that is not smart. And especially like the Democrats, like, well, at the end of the day, you're still beholden to the same corporate oligarchs. You just want to do it a little bit more, put some ribbons and bows on it to make it look a little nicer and feel not as bad, right? But over time, people's material situation is what ultimately, I think, really drives people's motivations or understanding of the political moment. And if you're not doing anything to change people's lives materially, that stuff just becomes like, you're just like the annoying school teacher that's like, you're bad for saying this or saying that, right? And Mamdani was able to just focus on something that attached to everybody, right? Was shit is too expensive, and it shouldn't be this way. We're the wealthiest country in the world, and bringing things like what he's talking about, hey, I want to raise the tax on the highest earners by 2%. And forming it in a way, like he was talking on Andrew Schultz's podcast, but he's like, but the thing is, like, it's not just, you're going to also benefit from that too, because you're going to be in a cleaner city, and there's going to be less homeless people and less, crime, and easier access to public transportation will mean less cars on the road. Like, everybody benefits from that. And, messaging it in that way, in a way that unites everybody, I think that's what really his campaign, beyond like whether he's able to actually get these things done, it speaks to people are ready for something different.
It's complex. It's going to take forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotta
and it's going to
hang in there.
Like, it's not like you can just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunately like with politics. And again, that's why some people will, like more revolutionary minded people will be like, electoral politics is not the way that we do things. I take the perspective of, you coming from, 10 years ago when we were getting the conspiracies, I was like, all politicians are full of shit. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. It was a very reactionary and reductive approach. I have the approach now of voting is the most consequential, least important thing that you can do, right? So you should vote, but also understand that it's only a limited thing, and there has to be other action beyond that.
All right, just seeing each piece for what it is, right? And
yeah,
who's got time for that? Really? How the hell are we going to figure out how to educate everybody like that?
Yeah.
While you're talking, I'm trying to find this other video right now of like the psychology piece, because we would have some time to jump into it if you want to do something like that.
Yeah.
So see if you can find.
Also, can we talk about this synchronicity quick?
Yeah.
Dick Cheney died on the day that Zoran won.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Huh. So what does that mean to you in terms of synchronicity?
For me, when I look back on, growing up in the post 9/11 era and who's someone who fell for the propaganda, like I was deeply racist against Muslim people, like confusing, people, even Sikhs wearing turbans. It's like, oh, terrorist. Anyone who has a big beard and a wrap on their head is a terrorist. The anti-Muslim bigotry that came from post 9/11, especially in a place like New York, for 25 years later, and Dick Cheney being like the architect behind all of it and like doing a genocidal illegal war, just killing millions of people. I think it was like conservative estimates are like 4 million people died in Iraq because of that. And to 25 years later, New York elects a immigrant Muslim mayor. Like, and bro, the racism on like the racism response, it's like, whoo, we're going back. This is some people are going full mask off with their racism with this one. It's crazy.
Well, I am amazed by how people don't see how they're doing the same thing that the other side was doing so often. Like, I'm going to leave if you do this, or like everyone's just like literally nobody's hanging in there. It seems like,
yeah,
and everyone's just like throwing a fit. But also that's, I think, where revolutionary stuff comes from, is really like impatience. Let's burn this shit to the ground and build something new because it's not working. Could come from like a place of ecstasy where like somebody doesn't want to like put the work in, and all of this talks about the human condition, how we understand how things are built, whether or not we understand whether or not we need to hang in there, what the benefit of that is, right? Should the structure stay? Should it be healed? Should it be gotten rid of, replaced with a new one? It's a whole like holistic process that we're trying to do all together. And I'm not entirely sure if we're all supposed to be doing it together, because I think, this is where I laugh, because like where I agree with Asmongold on some of his takes, where like some people are supposed to make big rocks into little rocks all day long, and that's what they're good at, and that's what they should do, make big rocks into little rocks, and they shouldn't be doing anything else. That's like what they're really good at, and that's what probably will make them happy, and if we include them in on this process of like trying to figure out how to get these nations under control, it might slow things down. The same way like any other meeting that has executives in there, the executives are there most likely because they've earned their spot, because they understand the industry. And if we bring all the interns in and they're asking all these questions, nothing's ever going to get done. You know what I'm saying? So like,
so that's Asmongold, broken clock, right twice a day moment.
Yeah, one of them. You know what I'm saying? Look, like he's a guy that loves false clarity. He does not hang in there. He's like, oh, you like robbed something? You should get 30 years in prison. If everyone got 30 years in prison, nobody would do it anymore. And you know what? He's not wrong. He's not wrong.
I think he is wrong. That doesn't go you
to Dubai.
Penalty and people still
go to Dubai for a little while. You'll see, man.
Yeah.
1 a.m, kids are outside playing soccer. No parents around. The streets are clean. There's no anything bad going on that I could tell. And I think
what do you believe is the reason for that?
Because I think the moment you sneeze the wrong way, you just disappear forever.
So everyone's real tight.
That's right. Yeah. Like, let me tell you, like I would bring like female friends into my hotel room because we're all hanging out doing the teaching work and whatever, right? So men and women hanging out after class. And if I brought a woman into the room, there would be security officers coming up shortly thereafter to make sure that because we weren't married, we weren't kissing, or else I was going to jail forever. Right? Or like when I got off the flight once, I had not a vape pen with THC, and I don't even think it had CBD, thank God, but it was something that just had like essential oils in it or something that was just like lavender or something. So, but they flagged me, went over to the side, guy took a look at me, looked at the pen, just one of these, just kind of like, just a little like this. And I was looking around. There's nobody there, but he was waving to somebody. Within like 2 minutes, I was surrounded by like 30 guards, and they were like, "Does this have CBD or THC in it? You know, tell me the truth." And I realized that like if that had that in it, we wouldn't be having this conversation anymore. Like that would be it. You know, and this was just something that was on me that I didn't realize was on me. Right? Thank God it didn't. You know, but that's the kind of thing where we're like when you have such incredibly immense consequences for even the slightest thing. You know, minimum 4 years in jail, you know, it's just like, and then more, right? It's like, yeah, you're going to behave. But is that a society that you want to live in? You know what I'm saying? Does that society account for mental health? Does that account for the times when I'm a little off, a little frustrated?
Mhm.
Does it account for the times when, for whatever reason, my SNAP benefits are gone and my family has no money and my kids are starving, so I have to do something that's a little outside the system? And in other words, I'm just asking you to look the other way while we all survive and find a better way. Like, that's not possible in an Asmongold world, a world of very strict, clear boundaries where everybody just goes to jail forever because, you know, it's like, it doesn't work. It's a nice false sense of safety. But anyway, so that's what I'm thinking about. So I'm trying to find this other thing. I don't want to spend our whole time doing it, but it's like,
It's Vlad Vlexer.
yeah, it's got like 3 different channels.
Should I look up psychology of Putin?
Yeah, that might work. That might work. You know, there is one here 7 months ago. The real reason Trump submits to Putin. It starts to talk about, in parentheses, it says he's unwell. You know, because that video is it's 11 minutes long. It links to the other ones that I can't find right now.
Trump's
20 years of how propaganda kills truth, how Putin fooled the Western left, the real chances of Russia collapsing, the hidden reason Putin can't afford to.
Look for this one. What's it called? The real reason Trump submits to Putin. Because I know that that's about 11 minutes long, and it leads to the other ones, and it'll give you a taste of what I'm talking about. So if you're interested in it, like, to me, I think it's fascinating, right? Hopefully this is one of the ones that I'm talking about.
This is it. The real reason Trump submits to Putin.
Right. He did this one about 7 months ago. And again, I think in this video, if I remember correctly, he names the 1 or 2 other videos that he put a lot of work in that I'm referencing. That would be too long for us to get into now, but I think you would like it. Meaning, like, I think you'll like this guy's take. And we may need to pause a few times because he's deep and, like, you know, it's like, whoa, like, hold on, wait a second. He said sense and sensibility as if that was a passing statement. He's talking about a whole way of moving and interpreting the world, you know?
Yeah.
Trump's unchecked narcissism is destabilizing global politics, yet few talk about this directly. Every relationship Trump has with Putin, with Macron, with Starmer, his theater of cruelty in the Oval Office with Zelensky, are all shaped by his narcissism. For Trump, every act, from lowering taxes to pouting, is designed to satisfy his narcissistic needs. The type of narcissism I'm talking about is not just a trait like greed or kindness, it's a personality disorder marked by deep denial of mental and emotional reality, and Trump has it. We usually don't discuss the mental disorders of our public figures, but as a political philosopher, I'm saying that it's time to put an end to that taboo. As our democracies decline, we're at risk of electing increasingly disturbed individuals. And when the power to end democracy or start a nuclear war is at stake, public interest overrides privacy. At the heart of narcissistic personality disorder is an insatiable desire for narcissistic supply. There is positive supply, for example, receiving adulation. There is negative supply, sometimes called sadistic supply, stemming from being seen as omnipotently destructive, a kind of dark admiration.
You didn't have our military equipment.
The spectacle of sadism in the Oval Office, Trump's demand that Zelensky offer gratitude, even as he calls him dictator, blames him for Putin's invasion, schemes to extract Ukraine's natural resources, toys with Ukraine's independence, was about sadistic, narcissistic supply, being seen across the world as the master of Zelensky's misery.
For some words of appreciation for
When J.D. Vance ambushed Zelensky, he wasn't merely acting on impulse. It was a
Can I just make a
calculated...
comment that there's something about millennials in power that there's something about me when I see like an older person, there's still like my transference around being a kid, like, oh, I don't know any better, like they know more than me, that like I get nervous about. But when I see a millennial like JD Vance like doing it, I'm like, you piece of shit. Like I have such little respect for him.
So
I feel like a traitor. Like you're a traitor to our generation.
it's all just such bullshit. You know, it's so such like where they're all coming from. It makes me ill to have to like get on that level to understand what they're doing, right? Which is why a guy like Vlad, when he breaks it down, I'm like, right, okay, there it is. There's his narcissistic supply, right? And there, what he's about to show right now is, and the internet's a little choppy. I don't know what it looks like in your end, which is why I'm saying this, because I want to return it for a minute or a few seconds, just so you can actually see the moment that JD Vance picks up on the opportunity to feed Trump's narcissistic supply by saying something and setting the whole thing off, right? And like these people, like when I say these people, what I say is like these people that have such, you know, such intense personality disorders, like where you could say like this is something that's pathological and it's a major problem, right? They are the easiest people to play in the world. I don't know if you've ever known a narcissist or anything like that. Like they're like a robot. Like quite literally, like you can play them like a fiddle when you understand how the narcissistic mind works, because the enemy of narcissism is not like compassion. It's like truth and reality. It's the capacity to grow and change, right? And when you know that, then you know, oh, this person's never going to change. They think they're better than everybody else, and that's a defense against life, right? So they're always going to be the same. So you can play them like a fiddle, right? And, you know, okay, great. So one of them, some people might say, is leading the greatest nation in the world. And you're watching like the other world leaders that are potentially either psychopathic or sociopathic, or, you know, when they're not quite intense narcissists in the same way, they still have this capacity to set agendas, and they have like an internal compass and internal locus of control. So they're not looking for the outside to give them what they need through negative or positive, what, you know, narcissistic supply, right? Now you're a fucking, like they know exactly what they're dealing with. Like they're just playing him. Right.
Yeah.
And so this is the kind of stuff to me where like, you know, it makes it a lot easier for me to stomach what it is that I'm witnessing, because I'm watching crazy play out and I understand what it is and what it's made of. You know, I'm like going, oh, that's what happened there. And it also gives me hope, because then I could see like what we're about to see with Zelensky, where I can start to see like, okay, like Zelensky definitely has advisors that teach him about this. He definitely has people that tells him what Trump's, you know, psychological makeup is, what to watch out for, and why that happened. So he's working with this as it is as well. You know what I'm saying? At least that's my hope. You know, there's no way I know more than he does. Like that would really bum me out. Yeah.
Yeah, I get you.
So back up just a few seconds, just so we can set this up, because you're going to see it play out live. Like, you know, they're like artists of like such fucking like self-indulgent bullshit.
Misery.
Ruining the world.
words of appreciation for
When J.D. Vance ambushed Zelensky, he wasn't merely acting on impulse. It was a calculated move designed to trigger Trump's thirst for narcissistic supply. You see, narcissists split the world into two: people they idealize and people they dismiss. In Trump's world, Putin is idealized. Trump invites Putin into a society of his own creation. Zelensky, on the other hand, falls into the non-idealized group. He doesn't meet Trump's needs for narcissistic supply, and therefore he doesn't exist. During the Oval Office meeting, J.D. Vance sensed that Trump was running low on narcissistic supply.
and the president who's trying to save
Vance's intervention from the couch was meant to dial up Trump's narcissistic dissatisfaction with Zelensky by hitting respect and gratitude. And it was calculated to create a new dynamic for Trump in which he could torment Zelensky, turning a pitiful event into a moment of grotesque glory. Now let's explore why Putin is Trump's narcissistic heaven. There is a tendency in our culture to think that narcissism is self-obsession, but that's not true. The antidote to narcissism is not caring for others. That's the antidote to sociopathy. The antidotes to narcissism are authenticity, being real, and growth, being able to look inside and find a steady self that can learn from experience. When Trump looks inside, he doesn't see anything there. There is no I. All there is a false self looking for narcissistic supply as a means of self-regulation. And because Trump has a false self, he cannot grow. Trump lives the same day over and over. He doesn't accumulate lessons or burdens. Notice how the few opinions he has haven't changed since the 80s. This lack of emotional weight explains in part why Trump seems to be aging slowly. When Zelensky showed Trump images of Ukrainian people,
that struck me, where I started to think, like, right,
this is why he's aging slowly.
That's right. Like right now, he's probably not doing so great, right? Which is, some people celebrate it. I don't. But the lack of emotional weight on somebody that has such an extraordinary limitation to take in reality and to see themselves, right? They're going to go on, like a rock that endures.
Is that why they live so long? That's why people like Henry Kissinger lived till 90 something.
This is what I'm saying. Like, it's something that struck me as true, right? Like, if you don't have that, right? Like, Bernie Sanders, when he was going on his big tour recently, one of the things he kept saying was, the life expectancy of people that are stressed out about money is 10 years less than everybody else that's getting all the tax breaks right now. It's like, do you guys like that? That you're going to live 10 years less because the amount of stress that you're under? Like, obviously not, right? And so, like, who's the one setting this whole thing up? Somebody who also doesn't feel the stress at all because they don't feel any emotional burden. Because what he's most concerned about is self-regulation, right? Like, he's concerned about, does Putin love me? Because he's idealized, and Zelensky doesn't even matter. Like, it's not like his conversation with Ukraine and everything. He's like, it's an entirely different conversation that he's having. Like, the way Trump relates to all this is completely different than what the people relate to it, with the Senate, with the Congress, like where the information flows up to the head, which is just like a complete fucking distortion. And this is why it's so completely disregarded, right? And it's like, if we don't know what we're dealing with here, we're always going to be upset that things aren't going the right way. But when you can see that, like, hey, why isn't the water coming out of the hose? Oh, because there's like 10 knots at the top of the hose. I'm not going to get so upset about the water not coming out. I'm going to go, well, somehow we're going to have to deal with these knots. And why the fuck did the knots get there in the first place? Maybe I voted for them. It's like one of those things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, stop voting for psychopaths. Stop voting for narcissists.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you have to be able to identify it, and not fall for it. Half my healing practice seems like men and women recovering from being narcissistic prey. It's like, the analogy I often use is like, because they're all bummed out after realizing that they've been in a relationship for 3, 5, 10 years, 20 years. And then the house of cards falls down, and this person they're with was just mirroring them, preying on them, gaslighting them, turning their life inside out, fucking them over, abusing them, and just living off them. They're like, how did I not see this? I'm like, well, I look around in the neighborhood right now, and I don't see everybody having top of the end, high end alarm systems on their house, right? But I guarantee you, the person that does is the person that got robbed. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't see, I can't prevent every car accident on the road. Like, there are these gaps in the way we've developed, like, where we're vulnerable. And it's a really unfortunate, very sad situation when somebody gets taken advantage of in that way, right? So, but it's like, this is one of those things where, like, we should be teaching in the schools how to understand these kinds of pathologies, so we do not vote for them to run the world, because nothing that we want will ever get accomplished, because they really don't. It's not even that they don't give a shit. It's not even possible for them to give a shit. It's not even possible. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so what are we going to do here now? You know what I mean?
Trying to move an immovable object. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I heard of something interesting about him and his explaining why outside of the narcissism, or probably part of the thing that developed the narcissism for him, or why he just says things that are just abundantly like not true. And I tie this into New Age thinking. He talked about his dad was one of those people that, those manifestation people. I forget which book it was, but about
Law of attraction.
essentially like you speak the law of attraction, you speak your reality into existence.
Uh-huh.
And it very much kind of explains where that starts for him, where he's just like, no, I'm the greatest. I'm the
Well,
great. Like I'm the, if he just says it and says it and says it and says it and says it, it becomes true on some level because people start believing it.
Well, it's a hyper realistic simulacrum.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, what it is
Yeah.
like, so, I brought this to Jason once because I was like, all right, what's up with law of attraction? I feel there's something wrong with this. There's something up with it that's like, doesn't feel right in terms of like the non-dual nature of reality. And he put it to me simply. He said, you're frozen. So, okay. So he said, the problem with law of attraction is that it puts our ego back in the center of the universe where I can literally create my reality. Right. And it completely disregards the truth that I'm a wave on an ocean of waves, right? I'm one wave on an ocean of waves. And as in my waveness, I can do some stuff, right? But I'm still a part of the ocean. And if I think that I can make all this because of me, or if I'm the other side of that, going to beat myself up because I haven't yet created what's on my vision board since the 90s or something, Like that's the other thing, because everyone beats themselves up. Everyone gets in law of attraction. I haven't yet made my millions. So it's true. I am a piece of shit. They look at that, right? And the fact is, no, you're a wave trying to move the ocean. It doesn't work like that, And it's like there's a different way. So you see somebody like, I hesitate to say his name, head of the White House, like he has a particular limitation where he thinks he's the ocean. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so everything comes from that perspective. He can't, and he can't see it. That's the other thing is like, there's no getting through to him. It's not possible. So
also because everyone does act as if he is that.
But that's the thing.
Everyone around him reinforces it.
And it's a sad, sad thing now because we just went through this with Biden where somebody was losing their mind and everybody was rallying around them and trying to hide it and cover it up and take advantage, which is really what they're doing. They're all just trying to take advantage, It's like, and I get it. Okay, great. So like, you're like where I was when I was like super wounded in like my teens or 20s. And some part of me that was bitter about life said, you know what? I'm just going to go get mine. I'm just going to get mine and fuck everyone else. Right. But that's such an immature stance. Like that's like, you're supposed to work through that in your teens.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're supposed to work through that. And like he's surrounded, that's why anyway, so it's good to know the psychology. It's a huge bummer because I don't know what we can do about it. But it's good to know so that we don't vote for another one.
Yeah.
Got about 10 minutes left. Yeah.
You got 10 minutes?
I got 10 minutes. I got to jump.
All right. So
POWs. Trump recognized what was in the picture, but had no correlate emotional response. Trump does not carry anything, whether it's Gaza or Ukraine or Melania. For Trump, the narcissist, life is all about theatrics around authority. He either dominates, staging spectacles to assert his authority, or he submits, aligning himself with special figures so that he can bask in their glory. I call this dynamic narcissistic submission. Narcissistic submission is huge in narcissism, even if it's not well understood. Psychoanalyst Christopher Bollas talks about the narcissistic contract. Quote, I promote you as exalted, welcome you into my world of idealization, and then bask in the radiant light of the idealized object. Now, if I were a narcissist, I would tell you,
do you get this? Like I deal with this in my sessions, healing sessions, right? Somebody's like, any accomplishment I had as a child, my mom took as their own, or my dad said, aren't I great? This is my son. Look what they did. This is my daughter. Look what they did, right? They bask in the radiant glow, right? So like somebody with narcissistic disorder is going to prop you up because you work with their hyper realistic simulacrum. You work with their false reality. And so they're going to be like, you're amazing. Everybody look how amazing they are. And I also know them. So we're all amazing, aren't we? Right. And as soon as you're no longer useful, you might as well be fucking garbage on the street. Right. Because it's a total using dynamic. Because remember, I'm the ocean. I'm not a wave on the ocean of all of us. I'm the fucking ocean. And you're this shitty little wave. You know, that's the way it works. And so like it's a using dynamic where now I'm going to prop you up and bask in your light and just soak you fucking dry, you know? And it all comes from that initial original limitation of just not being able to take in any amount of reality, you know? And you just see all of these problems. You see so many people that get pulled into this shit, right? Because it's seductive. Who wouldn't want somebody to talk about how great you are and put you on stage, right? You don't realize that it's a vampire, right? It's like, it's all a fucking trap. None of it is real, right? We're in the middle of the greatest Ponzi scheme of all time right now, of all time. We're right in the middle of it, talking about it. Can't seem to stop it.
Yeah. And let's just wind it. We'll finish it later because I have a couple of things to say. Okay. One, I'm going to send you a podcast in the similar line about Disney, about Walt Disney and why he created Disney World. And a lot of it was around he experienced his mother dying very young. And so he wanted to create a world with no pain where everyone's happy. Right. Yeah. I'll send you the podcast. I think it's American Hysteria is the name of the podcast, I believe. But it's a good one. But it'll be cool to listen to that and then go to Disney and like see like.
Oh, real cool.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll ruin your Disney trip.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
you can handle it. You can ride the wave. You got it.
I know.
But like there's also the part of like a geopolitical thing where the people who really have the power are using this Trump moment. This is what Shadid King-Bolson, his geopolitical analysis, he's saying that this is the controlled demolition of the United States of America and the West. And they're just riding, he's the wrecking ball that they're taking to just tear down the state because the vehicle that is the United States of America and the American empire is no longer the most efficient way of accumulating wealth, right? They're seeing it as like, all right, this isn't worth it anymore. We can't maintain empire in the same way. We got to adjust, and they're taking it all down and they're selling it all off and to the highest bidder. And they're going to, and this is what those dark enlightenment guys, which JD Vance is the ushering in, with Peter Thiel and Curtis Yarvin. They want to turn the United States essentially to a bunch of city states where like corporations own certain regions of the country. So like Amazon will have the Pacific Northwest, Tesla will have the South, whatever financial institution will have the Northeast, and essentially it's ran by like a CEO.
Is that a part of techno-feudalism or is that another thing? Was this Project 2025 stuff?
Bye, I love you. I'll get him. Okay, love you. Okay, Katie's going to work. Tim says hi.
Hi.
This is the shit we were afraid of in 2012. 2010, 2012, we were talking about this, right?
Yeah, that's like the irony of all of it. It's like all these conspiracy people that like helped Trump get in, like he's the conspiracy. Like this is it.
Yeah. But he turned it on its head.
Your Palantir police state.
Yeah. It's just, it was Trojan horse. You know what I mean? Everything was just sort of like flipped on its head. And, we're so sick of the way things have been that we're like, all right, we'll take a chance. Oh, now we're in it, So, all right, I have like probably 3 minutes,
No, but that's,
Bring it.
Last thing I said, but like, that's what the thing that, bringing Mamdani back into it. He represented people voting for something. He represented movement of some sort. People were feeling stuck, like nothing is changing. There's no future. And that's what Trump, his what he feels like movement, right? When people think of Trump, they're like, different. This is different. And people just want some sort of movement. And, you know, not realizing that movement is for the worse. But that's what he represented, movement. He brought politics and he made people feel it, where politics used to be this like boring, smart for, overeducated people. He made it accessible to everyone, and people felt it in a very dark way, but nonetheless.
There's this Duncan Trussell joke where I'm sure you've experienced lying in bed in the morning, not wanting to get up for the day, or maybe you have like, you just want 30 more minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so like you roll over and you get that 30 minutes, but it's like, it's like asking for 30 minutes from Satan. And Satan's like, all right, sure, no problem. You lie there for 30 minutes, but I'm going to fill you with the most anxiety you've ever felt in your life. You know, it's like, is this what you want? You know, like one of those things, you know, but that's what it is. That's what we fell for. Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh, you want 30 minutes? I'll give you 30 minutes of extra rest. Sure. Just lay there. That'll be just fine.
We fell for it again.
And you're just tortured. Right. So, all right. So we'll continue this one. We still have to continue the comedy world with hyper realistic simulacrum, the Elephant Graveyard video.
Yeah.
But we're going somewhere, you know.
I really like this. I like this guy.
Okay.
I like this is a nice way of like, I'm kind of bridging what we're trying to do.
That's right. That's what I'm saying. I had a feeling you'd like him, right?
Yeah.
And so when we finish this video at some point in this video, I'm pretty sure it's the one where he says, now, if you like this one, watch this one and this one. And it really breaks down the psychology of like a Putin and a Trump and why the nations actually like, it's not like Trump is a little Putin. It's like, no, the nations actually create this. And like, this is like how we have been a part of this. And this is why. So it's their makeup and our makeup and how it creates and what else is coming because of it. And none of it is happy. But it's like, you know, you just got to go, okay, so this is, you know, sort of dark night of the soul moment for the world.
It really is.
Right. So we have to rectify these states of unconsciousness and get right with it. And it might be some hard work. But all of this is easier when we know what's going on. Yeah. That's why I bring this forward. I want to know what's going on. So other shit that's not necessary falls apart, and I can have all of my power and creative life force to deal with the hardest thing that's creating everything. Right? Let's deal with the fundamental piece. So we're not just putting out fires, thinking we're making progress.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Okay, brother.
All right. Love you, dude.
Post any of your stuff? You good?
Reach out to me.
That's right. Listen, I'm still taking clients too. TheThirdThingNetwork.com or email me, TheThirdThingNetwork@gmail.com, all spelled out. One of these days I'll give you my text.
I need clients.
Go to Zach.
I'm good at this. First, I'm good at this.
Yeah, no, Zach, that's the only reason why I asked you to do this, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a little less of the verbiage that you have. You've put in much more work into it, but I get it to an extent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a good thing that you don't know, because then you can ask and I can unpack it. Right?
Yeah.
And we can bridge that gap and stuff, because there's enough of a foundation between the two of us, you know. So this is I think it's only a good thing, you know.
Yeah.
And honestly, the words I think are only so quick for me because I teach this shit every day. I literally, everything I'm saying right here, I've already said 3 or 4 times today.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, you know, so I'm literally just saying what I've already been saying. So the runway is already there. So you know what I'm saying? So I'm a fraud, you know.
You're a fraud.
All right, man. I'm going to go. I got another 2 more sessions today. Healthy and strong.
Healthy and strong.
Love you.
Love you. Yeah.